All right, what's up, guys? How's it going? All right, we're live. Welcome, everyone. It's Thursday, which means we're going live, and I'm going to answer some questions, share some updates with you guys and everything. Just got back from a camping trip. It was great to disconnect in nature for a few days. No technology, no screens, just being in the forest with some families and friends is great. So I'm all charged up from that. Before I get into the question and answers, there's something I want to share with you guys today, right? I'll share a little bit of a lesson in letting go and how this kind of relates to sexual vitality, sexual kung fu. It's relevant, right? So in the Tao Te Ching, which is Taoist text, it says something like the sage lets go of something new every day. And I think it's something like the foolish man, he accumulates something new every day, right? And so I had a very practical lesson in this recently where I think it was about the middle of June, I was experiencing diminished sexual vitality, which is extremely unusual for me, right? I was waking up without morning erections, which is, again, extremely unusual for me. And I was actually experiencing my erection quality was less than optimal for me during sex. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. My sexual vitality is a bit low, which, for anyone is really an indication of your health. For a man, your erection quality, your sexual libido, it's a reflection of your health. It's kind of a readout of where you're at in your body and your mind, right? So if something's off there, you know that something's off in your body or your mind. So I was experiencing this. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to fix this, right? And so I was like, I'm going to, take all my testosterone boosting herbs, my sexual boosting herbs, do all these other practices. So I was trying to add new things, right? And nothing was working. It was about a week, maybe a week and a half, where I was experiencing, again, no morning wood and very diminished erections. For me personally, I was still having erections, but just not, rock hard for hours at a time, which I'm usually capable of. So I'm like, it was concerning me. And so right about this time, I was beginning my several trips I was taking. I was going to Dallas, Oklahoma, North Carolina. And so one thing I realized was that I was going to take a bit of a break from the gym. I usually work out several times a week. And so I stopped this. And so I was basically letting go of a lot of my normal habits, the normal things that I'm doing. And about 2 weeks into my, my trips, my sexual vitality came back 100%. In fact, it was like 150%. I was more potent, stronger morning erections, much heightened sexual libido, sexual desire. And so I was like, okay, I just needed to take a bit of a break, because what I realized was that I was, we could say, burning the candles at both ends, right? I'm very, very physically active. So I have a pretty intense, workout regimen, which I do 3 to 4 days a week. But on top of that, I'm doing, deep internal Qigong practices, yoga, all these practices, which some of which are quite physical. I'm doing that every single day for, up to 2 hours a day. So I realized I was putting a lot of stress on my body and wasn't really allowing myself to recover, because in my mind I was like, no, I got to go to the gym, got to do my workouts, got to do my 2 hours of practice. So I was just really, I was doing too much. I was adding too much to my plate. And again, trying to take more herbs, trying to take more things to boost my health, my sexual vitality. And it was actually, nothing was working. And what actually worked for me was removing things. Taking 2 weeks off from going to the gym allowed my body to recover, because what I learned was that when you're doing a lot of heavy, intense strength training, the body puts a lot of resources into regrowing your muscles. Like, it can boost your testosterone and things, but all those resources are actually going into just rebuilding your muscle tissues that you're constantly tearing, right? And this can actually, if you overdo it, if you don't allow yourself enough rest, enough integration time, if you don't take breaks, then your sexual vitality starts to diminish. That's what I was experiencing. So the lesson for me was to basically take a break, right? Stop trying to overachieve. Stop being so, I'm a very, we could say, kind of a restless person. I'm always like, I got to be doing something. I got to be, practicing this, taking things to the next level. It's hard for me to just do nothing and relax, which is actually what I need the most to balance me, right? As kind of a fiery type of person. So anyways, lesson here again, maybe you guys can relate to this, is that, oftentimes letting go of something, taking a bit of a break, allowing your body and your mind to rest, having more stillness, having more time in nature, which is what I was having when I was traveling, and I went to 2 weeks of internal alchemy retreat. I was meditating 3 to 4 hours a day. I was, not doing anything too physically active, and it really, really, really helped my body recover, helped me get in, rebuild my sexual battery, to where I was at, 150% my sexual vitality after that, and I'm in that now. So anyways, just wanted to share that with you guys that, even I have my setbacks every now and then. And just, this is something I learned from that, which is again to, when you're, stuck in some way, you're experiencing, some sort of issue in your life, rather than trying to add more things to your plate, sometimes it's better to remove things, allow more stillness, more openness in your life. But really my my approach in sexual kung fu, my approach in life really is it's finding that art between removing things from your life and adding new things for to your life, right? Obviously, if you add everything, or if you remove everything, like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything, then you're not gonna go anywhere with your life. But if you're doing too much, you're like, okay, 24/7, I must be working, must be exercising, I must always be doing something. It's an excess yang pattern. You're going to burn yourself out. So it's finding this balance point. This is yin and yang. This is Chinese medicine. Basically, the theory of Chinese medicine is finding this point between extremes. When you're doing too much, it burns you out. You have heart attacks. When you're not doing enough, you become too yin. You become stagnant. You have other issues, right? So it's finding that balance point. And again, this quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is perfect for what I was experiences. And I would alter it a bit to say the striving mind wants to add something new every day, but the inner sage removes something every day. And so it's finding that balance point for yourself. And this is something I tremendously benefited from. So anyways, I want to share that with you guys. Let's see, anything else? I think that's it for now. I'm going to be in Georgia next month, or this month, August, I think it's the 25th to the 28th. Camp Disclosure, just go to campdisclosure.com. You can get your tickets to that. I'll be teaching 2 workshops there. It's going to be great. All right, I'm going to get into some questions here, so feel free to send in questions. Jake Shotwell says, can you post a list of those sexual herbs you mentioned? Off the top of my head, I have a long list of herbs that I'll, that I know that increase sexual potency, but shilajit is great, maca root, tomcat ali, hisho wu, goji berry, schizandra, rehmannia, pine pollen. There's a lot. That's a good start, I think. Those alone will be solid. Juicy Matt says, someone said that when you ejaculate, you waste a part of your soul. Is that true? I mean, maybe there's a little bit of truth to this, but overall, it's like, basically think of an ejaculation as it's a discharge of your battery, your energetic battery. I don't think you're really losing your soul unless you're like, if you're doing weird sexual things with, people you don't necessarily want to be intertwined, you're in some weird, karma there, then, maybe that's kind of scattering your soul, so to speak, whatever. But overall, I mean, your soul is immortal, right? But ejaculating is discharging the battery. So if you're discharging it more than you're charging it, you're going to experience depletion. Simple as that. That's kind of the, my philosophy on semen retention. Jim Benson. No, I do not know Jim Benson. Okay, Blisticor says, just reading an article of Brahmacharya, and it said that some yogis abstain for life and say they have no sexual thoughts. Opinions on this? I mean, it's an easy thing to say, and it's also easy to do when you're living in a cave your whole life separated from society. But the reality of this is a lot of these, and I'm not trying to put anyone down here, but the reality is that a lot of these gurus, the Indian gurus that came here to America, they were masters of Brahmacharya. They could control their mind and body because they lived in a society that was fairly, we could say, conservative. But then they come to America and it's like, oh, there's no rules here. You can have sex with anyone. No one cares. And they have all these women followers. And before you know it, all these major Indian gurus are sleeping. They're having sex with all of their, followers. So it's like, obviously they didn't really master that. And again, there's no judgment here. It's just part of our human nature. So what I say is don't set unrealistic expectations for yourself. Sure, it's easy to abstain from sex your whole life and not have sexual thoughts if you live in a cave. But at the same time, what have you actually accomplished? You've hid from society. You haven't contributed anything to the world. What was the point of coming to the planet if you're just going to hide and have your own enlightenment away from everyone else without actually contributing anything, right? So my philosophy is that it's sexual kung fu. You're not trying to suppress anything. And again, celibacy, it's like my understanding is that the whole point of celibacy is that, they don't want to waste their sexual energy, which is understandable. But a lot of these paths don't realize that you can engage in healthy sexuality without depleting your sexual energy by learning the sexual kung fu techniques. And in fact, it's, in my opinion, more beneficial because, our bodies are wired to connect with other humans. It's very lonely to be celibate your whole life. Sex is an amazing, blissful, connected experience. It's very healing if you do it in the right way. And in my opinion, you can have a higher energetic cultivation by engaging this way. But that's just my opinion. It's my experience. I don't know anyone who's been celibate for a long period for their life and enjoyed it, right? But I know that some people do. Okay, Anne Maria says, when we want to break up, but we still have a lot of passion during sex, what do you think about that? I mean, it's normal. The thing to understand is that there's different levels of attraction. There's different levels of connection to other people. So I'm guessing that you guys had a very strong gene attraction, which is, so I'm going to be talking about these three levels we talk about in Taoist philosophy, Chinese medicine, Jing, Qin, Shen. And it's as simple as, kind of the more physical realm, the emotional realm, and the spiritual realm, we'll say, right? So you have a strong physical attraction to each other. Obviously, you enjoy having this sex together, but maybe emotionally, you don't feel connected. You intellectually, you don't feel connected. Spiritually, you're on different paths. And that's why you want to break up, because things just aren't working. So you're simply experiencing a connection at one level of these dimensions of attraction, we could say, but not all of them, because if you don't have all of these, in harmony, then the relationship's not going to be sustainable. So it is what it is. That's, hopefully that kind of answers your question. There's no judgment or anything. It's just like, if that's what you choose to do, it's great. Cars Willie says, how long does it take to recover from ejaculation? In other words, when do you get your semen retention benefits back? It varies. If you're extremely healthy, you're not depleted, then you may not even feel depleted from an ejaculation. Or if, like most men, you've been ejaculating every day for years and years, or at least you're very depleted, your kidney energy is low, then you might be wiped out for several days after an ejaculation. Me personally, usually on the occasion that I do ejaculate, I don't feel very depleted because of my strong sexual kung fu practice, and I feel basically back to 100% within a few days. So that's my timeline, but it's going to be different for other people. Basically, the higher skill level you have in cultivating energy, the less stress you have in your life, the healthier your diet, your lifestyle, everything, the easier you will recover from ejaculation. Again, it's all about ejaculation is a discharge of your battery. So if you have a lot of things that you're keeping your battery highly charged, it won't be as big of a deal if you choose to ejaculate, Okay, your fave Xenia says, what is your opinion about casual sex? I think it's fine. I've had it in my life. The thing to understand here is, for me, it's not in terms of right or wrong, but it's understanding some of the energetics and the principles involved in sexual connection. So when you have sex with someone, I feel like we talk about this every time. So this is going to be old for some of you, but basically when you have sex with someone, this is the deepest level of exchange you can have with someone. All this information is exchanged. Physical information, your DNA, your genetics are exchanged through sex, but energetically, all of your emotions, your beliefs, deep unconscious things, most people are completely unaware of this, are being transferred during sex. It's basically you're downloading all this information to each other during sex, even your ancestral patterns, deep, deep stuff. So understand that that's happening every time you have sex. So I will say, choose your partners wisely. Ask yourself, do I want to be like this person I'm having sex with? If yes, then great, connect with them. If not, then, you may be creating a lot of work for yourself. It's not about right or wrong. It's just about understanding that fact and if that's what you want to engage with. Arga Mondal Fitness says, what's your perspective on OHAs? Okay, so OHAs is basically the equivalent of Jing in the the Hindu system, the Indian system. As far as my understanding, it's this physical essence, right? Which is basically Jing. as the Taoists would call it, the Jing Qi Shen. So ohas is one level of prana, we could say, right? It's this physical essence, sexual energy. And then you say, it's said in Indian scriptures that by even thinking about sex, we lose ohas. While doing tantric sex, is it possible to retain ohas? So this, you have to be careful about a lot of these kind of dogmatic principles. I'm not trying to bash on any religion or anything, but it's like a lot of religions have these kind of control systems, like you shall not think this, that's a sin, that's wrong, you're going to hell if you do that, you're going to lose all your energy if you think about sex. Understand, when you're being manipulated and controlled, and I think it's a bit of a distortion of what the original message was trying to share, which is basically if you're excessively thinking about sex, if you're constantly fantasizing, constantly thinking about like porn images and things like that, yes, you're going to scatter your energy. But just if you're like thinking about someone you love, you meet with your partner and you haven't seen them in a week and you feel this sexual desire, sexual attraction to them, that's a sexual thought. It's not depleting your energy because it's this exchange. So understand that, people often take these principles and just kind of distort them a bit, but there's a little more complexity to all these dynamics of energetics, we could say, right? So yes, while doing tantric sex, you can retain your jing, your ohas, which is what the whole goal of sexual kung fu is to not just retain as in like, I have to hold this within myself, but recycle it internally and exchange it with your partner. So you manage it so you're not draining, more than you're taking in, basically. But don't get too religious about this. Don't get too rigid and like, that's wrong, I thought about sex. I don't know anyone who, has completely stopped thinking about sex. I will say that much. But being able to control your mind is important. Jake Elliott 69 says, do you think, or 99, 69, 99. Do you think extended meditation is the most vital thing for lasting as long as you want, aside from reverse Kegels? Not necessarily, because what do you define as extended meditation? If you're simply sitting there, in stillness, not thinking about anything, or maybe you're doing a Johnathan meditation, whatever, yes, it will help you to be more calm. It will help to balance your nervous system. So it can definitely have a major impact on developing sexual stamina. So yes, meditation is important, but I don't necessarily, is it the most vital thing? There's a lot of other things that are vital as well, like being able to move the sexual energy through your body, which, if you're in a meditation practice that incorporates that, may be part of it. So, overall, I would say yes and no to your question, but there's a lot of aspects of sexual control, sexual endurance. John Mao says, why so much about sex? I mean, the very Taoism itself has to do with internal alchemy and so many things in order to have an energetic and harmonious lifestyle. Yeah, and sex is a very important part of that, because the thing is that sex is a very important part of humans' life, I will say. We have this powerful sex drive. We're the only animals, I mean, maybe there's a few others, but basically, it's more than just this reproductive urge. If that was the case, we would be like other animals where we only have a specific mating season that we desire sex, but the humans desire sex like 24/7. So obviously there's a higher purpose to the sex drive. In my opinion, it's a spiritual drive. And if you don't learn how to manage the sexual energy, which is driving pretty much everyone's lives, whether you're conscious of it or not, then it's always going to control you, and you're missing out on this massive potential of sexual power. Orgasm is what creates everything. Everything passes through the portal of orgasm to be created. I don't know how to tell you this, but your parents had an orgasm and that created you, right? So obviously this is a big deal. So learning how to engage in sex and manage your sexual energy in a harmonious way. And as you said, yeah, Taoism is all about harmony and balance. And if you cannot have harmony and balance within your sex life, then the rest of your life's not going to be in balance as well. And understand that internal alchemy practices in, Neidan, it's a sexual process in and of itself, but it's just your own polarities you're working with. You're working with the fire, water energy, Kan and Li. We're learning to manage your internal female, male energies and engage in this energetic internal inner course, right? So there's a lot of sexual practice in Taoism, and yeah, the Tao sexology is an important part of that. So, if you choose to engage in it or not, that's fine, but it's, in my opinion, it's very beneficial. Carswell says, does ashwagandha help with testosterone? I'm not entirely sure if it's a testosterone booster, but it does have a lot of very great benefits for sexual health and sexual libido. El Perro Phantasma says, what's your opinion on using sildenafil? Not sure how to pronounce that. Viagra, basically, right? I do not recommend pharmaceuticals. That specifically it has all kinds of side effects. One being you can have priapism, which is too much blood stuck in the penis over an extended period of time, and basically after that you have complete erectile dysfunction. So it's really one of the main causes of deaths in the United States is pharmaceuticals, overdose, side effects, whatever. If what's the real pandemic here, right? Interesting to think about, right? But basically, I recommend doing anything you can to not use pharmaceutical drugs because they're very far removed from the natural state. It's a $1 million business. It's a massive control system. We're not going to get into that. But basically, sexual kung fu. If you practice sexual kung fu, you don't need drugs. You don't need to go to the doctor and get prescribed a pill so you can just, keep drinking Bud Light every night, keep drinking whiskey every weekend, smoke cigarettes every day, eat McDonald's, and then pop a pill and get an erection, that instant gratification lifestyle. If you truly want radiant sexual vitality, super strong erections, powerful sexual libido, practice sexual kung fu. Take some natural herbs, live a healthy lifestyle. It's not that difficult, and it will change every other aspect of your life as well. So, yeah, I don't recommend using pharmaceuticals. Okay, Suida Laz says, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Sometimes I see a contradiction. Usually an old person that does high-level Qigong and Tai Chi has all the sexual energy, but their body is a dad bod. How does this work? Okay, I see this all the time. I know what you're talking about. A lot of my teachers, I'm not gonna say any names, but yeah, they're obviously doing a lot of Qigong, they're doing a lot of internal cultivation, but their physical, body's a bit, they got the beer belly, the Buddha belly, right? The Chi belly, we could say. It's because they're not doing a very high level of physical fitness, we could say, which is fine. If it's not their priority, it doesn't matter. Yes, you're getting health benefits by doing Qigong and Tai Chi. That's great. But this is why I do Qigong, I do Tai Chi every single day, hours a day, and I go to the gym and work out to stay in shape, right? So it's just, what's your priority, I guess? And no judgment, it's fine. But, I want to be physically fit as well as energetically fit, right? Work my physical muscles and my energetic muscles. To me, that has given me the best results. Huma Awake says, Taoism says it is healthy for man to have sexual intercourse with multiple partners. Do you agree with this view, and how do you deal with that plus your relationship? So here's the thing. A lot of these Taoist texts, the sexual texts, were some of them were a bit distorted, right? This whole thing of, yes, like it's the, is it the Peng Su's classic or the Yellow Emperor's classic where it talks about, yes, a man, I was reading one, it's basically like every time when the man becomes fully aroused, he should then switch partners. So it's like, okay, you just have like 10 ladies just lined up, it's very unrealistic. It's actually quite vampiric. Like these emperors that use these texts, they would round up all these virgin girls and just have sex with all these girls every night, just to absorb their energy, basically to vampire off of them. So I don't really resonate with this approach. I think it's also another thing to understand is that we're in a very, very different time than ancient China, right? Where it was usually only the elite of the elite were using these practices, these sexual kung fu practices, because they had these secretive texts that were handed down generation to generation to only the most worthy people, right? As for like us in this modern world, also understanding the fact that every person you have sex with, you're exchanging deep levels of information. I think that, there's a high level of karma, weird entanglements. People have a lot of issues going on in this world. I'll just say that, right? So I do not choose to have multiple partners personally. And, I think it's actually more valuable. I mean, not to get you, whatever works for you is fine. But I think in a long-term situation, a long-term context of relationship, I think it's personally better to have, one person that you're like really, really, really connected with, deeply in resonance with, because you get to really learn their mind and their body and how you can cultivate together. A lot of those Taoist texts, it's about the man. It's like, okay, how can he drain the most women in one night? It's basically what it is, right? But for me, it's about how can me and my partner get to ever deeper, deeper, and deeper levels of connection and sexual exchange and fulfillment, right? So maybe that kind of puts things in perspective. I don't know. That's my philosophy. Just because you read things in a book doesn't mean you should do them. I think it's important to understand. A great lesson I learned from my father. Okay, Tina says, thanks for all the great info you share. A few months ago, you spoke of starting a Qigong class or program. Will that be starting this fall? Really looking forward to that. So I do have my Immortal Energy Arts online school. Go to immortalenergyarts.com. You can sign up for that. But I'm creating a free Qigong course. Took me a bit longer than I thought. I've been traveling for a month, and I'm going to be having that free Qigong course opening very soon, and some updates in my Immortal Energy Arts school. So make sure you're on my email list by getting my free guides. Link in my YouTube channel, link in my Instagram, and my free courses. And I will be emailing more information about that when it opens. I'll be talking about it here as well. Randall Frank says, would you say that raising your level of testosterone would raise your vibration? No, not necessarily. It's going to raise your physical, it's going to strengthen kind of the lower energy systems in the body, we could say, right? Your physical essence. And if you use that energy wisely, if you use the boost of testosterone, willpower, ambition, drive, if you use that to cultivate your higher energy centers, your overall balance, your heart center, your crown center, your third eye, then yes, you will raise your vibrations. But how many guys do we see who are obviously high testosterone bodybuilders, kind of meathead kinds of people, but they're lost in the world, we could say. They're stuck in unconscious programming. They're just trying to find things to have sex with, trying to find drugs to take, trying to find foods to eat. That's the extent of their life, trying to find money to make, right? That's not a very high vibrational lifestyle, I would say. No judgment, but like, yeah. So no, I don't think there's a correlation between testosterone level and your vibration level, whatever that means to you, right? But to me, it's about a product of your consciousness and how you use that physical essence and transmute that into something higher. This is all, the internal alchemy process of refining this crude physical essence of sperm, testosterone, whatever, refining that into spiritual essence, into qi and shen. Mohammed 7275 says, what do you think of HFO hypnosis? I think that's hand-free orgasm hypnosis. I don't think much about it. I haven't experienced it personally, so I can only say so much about it. But if it resonates with you, go for it. All right, guys, there's lots of questions. I'm not going to be able to get to every single question, so I apologize if I miss your question, but I'm just kind of picking the ones I think are most relevant. Nick Flores, hey, what's up, brother? Nick says, does a condom block off the energy exchange due to the material, etc.? So the question of using a condom during sex, it does have a slight lessening of the energetic exchange, but very slight. It's still, when you think about it, during sex is an exchange. It's much beyond just the genitals, right? You're exchanging energy through your hands, through your heart centers, through your crown centers. The whole energetic fields are merging. Your energy body has no boundaries, right? So it's a very, 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 very slight limitation from using a condom. And the benefits of that, not getting STDs if you're sleeping with someone you don't know very well, or not having unwanted pregnancies, the benefits outweigh the cons. So don't worry too much about it. But having said that, I prefer not wearing a condom. Evan Duda says, I know you've mentioned taking herbs in the past. Thoughts on taking herbs? Do you take them? There are times I feel they would be beneficial and necessary. Yes, herbs are great. Herbs are the medicine of nature, but not every herb is suitable for every person all the time. This is where herbology comes in. Chinese medicine is about what are you deficient in? What are you excessive in, right? So if you have, too much heat in your body and you're taking heat building herbs simply because you heard they boost your sexual energy, you're going to cause yourself an imbalance. So it's like you need to understand how different herbs affect you and what the contraindications may be, which is kind of a complicated subject. So, do some research in herbalism to learn more about that. But yes, herbs are great. Okay, another part of the next question. Does the condom block off the inner thought, emotion, the belief exchange? So basically this exchange of information I'm talking about, no, not really. Very, very, very slight, if any of that. So don't think you can sleep with random people and not take on the karma just because you're wearing a condom. David says, question, semen retention, day 53. Past few days I had urges. My boys feel quite hot and my lower back hurts. During physical activity I can practice. Due to my job, I spend time on PC. So you probably spend a lot of time sitting. You definitely want to move your body, move as much as you can, walk, go on walks, stand up and shake out your body as much as you can. You're sitting down all day is terrible for you. It's especially bad for your sexual health. Sitting all day causes all this tension in your pelvic floor, tension in the pelvis that can, cause erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation if it's excessive. So stretching is also extremely important. Yoga practice, asana, doing some deep stretches, opening everything up if you spend a lot of time sitting is essential. Our bodies were built to move. If we're not moving our bodies, moving our fluids, the stagnant, the water that's stagnant, it grows nasty stuff. Same with our bodies. Keep it flowing. Devin Queen says, what is the practice of sexual kung fu? Is it the practice of meditation, breathwork, and Qigong? Basically, yeah, it's all these things. Sexual kung fu basically translates to hard work, time spent training, skill, discipline, right? Sexual kung fu is the skill, hard work, and training in mastering sex and sexual energy, right? And the training of sexual kung fu consists of meditation practices, Qigong, breathwork, yogic practices, basically to open up the energy channels of the body, create a container to hold a heightened level of sexual energy and to boost your overall vitality. In a nutshell, that's sexual kung fu. Sebastian says, what would you consider the Taoist ejaculation formulas accurate? What would be the optimal frequency of ejaculation for a 22-year-old male? Good question. And it's also important to understand that we have a much higher degree of stress and toxicity in our world than, the Taoists who developed those formulas did. So for most people, you'll need to go longer than what they recommend. But overall, if you're healthy, you can follow them. If you're in good balance, good health, you don't have any major chronic issues, whatever, then yeah, you can follow the Taoist ejaculation frequencies. And for 22 years old, what's the frequency for 22 years old? They would say minimum 4 to 5 days between ejaculations. So that means you should never ejaculate more often than every 4 or 5 days. But it'll probably be better for you to go a bit longer once you're able to keep yourself balanced by doing microcosmic orbit, circulating that energy. 2 weeks, even a month would be great. Okay, Johnny Blaze says, when you ejaculate once every 46 weeks, how does that compare to your non-ejaculatory orgasms after all that time? Must be fairly intense. Yes, on the occasion I do have an ejaculatory orgasm, it's extremely intense, especially because I don't just go right to an ejaculatory orgasm. When it's time, I go at least 20 minutes, usually much longer. Usually it's like an hour or more of drawing sexual energy, having non-ejaculatory orgasms, drawing as much of that sexual energy out of my genitals so that when the time does come to ejaculate, I don't feel depletion. And yes, the orgasm is quite intense. Okay, so there's 2 questions about cycling supplements. Yeah, it's a good idea to take a break from supplements every now and then. I recently had, several weeks without taking really any supplements except for some of my, basics like zinc, a multivitamin I take, things like that. And it depends on the supplement as far as cycling them. Some supplements are pretty safe to take quite frequently. Others you want to cycle and things like that. You want to do your own research on this. Okay, so is it better to stay a virgin? I already kind of answered this question about celibacy versus sexual kung fu lifestyle, we could say. So you can watch earlier in this replay. I post these on my YouTube channel after doing them, so you can watch this later and hear that. Mighty Conquero says, where do you take your zinc from? There's two types of zinc I usually take. I take a chelated zinc. I forget what the brand is that makes it. And then I take ionic zinc from Trace Minerals. Those are the ones that I take. Yeah, you want to take plenty of zinc. Zinc is the most essential mineral for male sexual health, optimal health, and immune system as well. Atlanticat says, my boyfriend is tired after making love once per night and doesn't even want to do it again after. I don't know how to do to help him. So if he ejaculates at the end of sex, like most men do, then over time, this is discharging his sexual battery. And yes, he will be unable to continue after having sex. So the solution for him would be to, well, first of all, rebuild his sexual battery by taking certain herbs, eating healthy lifestyle, all that. But also learning to have sex without ejaculating, learning to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. So he will actually get more energy every time he has sex rather than losing energy. G Rose says, my girlfriend stopped having sex with me because I cannot last long. I've tried breathing, doing reverse Kegels, reverse for last month. I think I need more Qigong. I need to improve nitric oxide. Most common cause of premature ejaculation is basically hypertension, stress. If you're extremely anxious all the time, you have all the stress, tension patterns in the body, you're in fight or flight all the time. And when you go to have sex, all this your sympathetic nervous system is all already activated, which is what triggers ejaculation. So removing stress from your life, learning to relax your mind and your body is extremely important. So breath work, reverse Kegels, Qigong are really great tools for this, but being aware of your tension levels, your stress levels and things like that, learning to manage that. It's a big part of it, premature ejaculation. You consider the Shamgavi, Mahamudra, Kriya, Sadhguru, Isha practice as equivalent to Microcosmic Orbit. I'm not exactly familiar off the top of my head what that practice is. I know that in Kriya Yoga they teach a lot of orbit types practices. There's a Kriya Yoga practice which is kind of an orbit, but it's mostly up the back of the spine and down the front of the spine. It's not quite the same as the Microcosmic Orbit. So off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure. Roy Ewan Sachs says, what makes the sacral chakra more active? Creativity, sexual desire, building your kidney energy, your core vitality, things like that will develop that area of your body more. Mighty Conquero says, how would you advise a man who is single, working on his energy and staying out of unconnected sex, but still desiring sex? Waiting until you really connect and love someone can take a while. Thoughts? Yeah, so this thing of when you're single, desiring a partner, but not just wanting to rush into not wanting to have like one night stands and things like that, waiting for a quality partner. For me, the sexual kung fu practices were extremely valuable for overcoming sexual frustration and making me less impulsive about just trying to rush and find a partner and kind of having higher standards and expectations for myself, right? So what helped me was obviously doing, sexual transmutation every day, running the microcosmic orbit, doing lots of Qigong, also engaging in self-pleasure, like, because we need sex, we need sexual pleasure, we need orgasm for our cells and our DNA to function properly. So there's no reason you can't give that to yourself. And if you're always relying on someone else to do that for you, then you're always putting your center outside of you, so to speak. So learn to pleasure yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. Learn to have non-ejaculatory sexual experiences within yourself. It will make you a better lover. You cannot truly love or please someone else until you can love and please yourself, right? So I think that's a solid solution to that, if that resonates with you. It's the Gunner says, how to cure erectile dysfunction. It depends what's causing it. If it's actually like physical, something's wrong, or if it's more of a physiological kind of mental issue, right? I made a whole video on this. It's on my Sexual Kung Fu YouTube channel. It's the complete guide it's the ultimate erection guide. So check that out. But basically, just a quick sound bites from that. One of the most common causes of erectile dysfunction for men now is watching porn. It distorts your dopamine receptors, distorts your arousal response, so that you can't get erect when you're with a real woman. If you're ejaculating too frequently, you're discharging your sexual battery, you're going to have erection troubles. If you don't have basically a healthy amount of sperm built up, then you have very low sexual energy and you can't get erections. So that's kind of the more, some aspects of it. There's also the simple matter of blood flow in the body. If you have restricted blood flow in the genitals, if you're not moving your body, cardiovascular exercise is very great for this, improving the nitric oxide levels in your body, and specific penis exercises which improve blood flow. Check out Angion method, Angion. Really great method for boosting blood flow in the penis, developing the blood vessels. Mighty Conquero says, do you have any video explain the microcosmic orbit meditation? Yes, go on my YouTube channel, Sexual Kung Fu, look for microcosmic orbit meditation. I have several videos on it. I am Alexander the Goat says, can we float if we harness enough? Levitation. I don't know anyone who's done it, but there's lots of people who have. I hear that really mastering the gamma, not just as a brainwave, but as a frequency your whole body's tuned to, is one of the secrets of levitation. I don't know. Gamma waves. Jake Bronson says, what's the difference between your sexual kung fu workout course and multi-orgasmic mastery? Which course would you recommend for absolute beginners? I would recommend sexual kung fu workout. So these are my smaller little offerings, little small training videos I have on my website. They're great starting points. So yeah, sexual kung fu workout is a solid point. I also have a package where I sell both of those and my Qigong mastery video, which I recommend as well. Royun Sachs says, what are your thoughts about Buddhist meditation, concentration on the breath or any object that you want until you enter absorption state? Yeah, it's a great foundation for deeper practices. I teach basically a very similar practice in my course where you absorb awareness into the body and into your breath. And it's actually a really good foundation for more advanced energetic practices. But on its own, it's not, it's not an end state, we could say. It's kind of a foundation for deeper practices. Krimtali says, I'm dating a girl and all she energetically responds to in sex is getting her brains blown. How do I introduce tantric sex and what should I do if she doesn't like the idea of tantra? Good question. So it sounds like she basically only wants really rough, hard sex, right? Which for some women, they need it, right? It is what it is. So being able to learn to do that as well as having gentle tantric sex, I think is, a great idea for men, right? You can have rough, vigorous sex because sometimes women need that, right? But also being able to have subtle, slow, soft tantric sex as well. Some people ask me like, oh, sexual kung fu, so you have to have sex really, really slow, really meditative. And I'm like, no, you can full blown, go to Plowtown, right? When your skills there, you have to be able, you have to have some foundations. But at the same time, for me, it's a dynamic between these two, having the more still, meditative, slow parts of sex, and then building into more aggressive, intense physical sex, right? So alternating between those two creates a nice dynamic, because too much intense pounding basically numbs your nervous system so that it stops feeling good after a while. And so at that point, you go into slow dynamic sex, and then it starts to feel like this whole other realm of orgasm. So, so your question about introducing tantric sex, I mean, introduce it to her. Say, hey, what if we tried this other way? Look up Karezza, right? Karezza. Check out my video on that, and see if she's down to practice it. For some women, also that this intense, very physical, thrusting sex, they're conditioned. Well, all of us, men and women, we're conditioned to experience that as like that is sex, right? And because that's what we were conditioned to experience. We saw that in porn, we see it in movies, whatever, and we're like, that's sex. Anything else is not right. Some women are basically, they don't have very much sensitivity in their yoni and their vagina for different reasons. Maybe because there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of sexually abused, so they kind of numb this area of their body, or maybe they use a vibrator too much and destroy their nerves there, right? So there's many, many factors to it. So it may be simply that that's what she needs as far as sex, is to have really rough, vigorous sex, or maybe she needs some desensitization there in the yoni space. It's difficult to say exactly, right? So hopefully that helps. And then that gets into this question by Blair James. How should I incorporate a new partner into NoFap and semen retention? Well, my recommendation is to master the sexual kung fu practices on your own, because I've had actually women reach out to me and say that their men were trying to learn these practices and they basically use them as a training tool. Like one woman sent a message, she said her partner, he was about to ejaculate. He basically like threw her off of him, was like, get off of me, and like stood up and made sure he didn't ejaculate. That is not a good approach to do. Do not use your partner as a training tool, right? If you basically, my recommendation is to really master this stuff on your own and then incorporate it into sex with a partner so that's effortless. You can also obviously tell them, hey, I am into a bit more esoteric approach to sex. I'm about circulating sexual energy, getting to full body states of orgasm, exchanging that with you so that we both have a more powerful bonding, deep experience, right? Beyond conventional sex. And if you haven't mastered, then maybe just communicate. Say like, hey, if I'm getting close to ejaculation, could we maybe slow down a bit so I don't go over the edge, so I can kind of regain composure? So being open and communicative about it is important. But at the same time, maybe not say on the first date, like, hey, by the way, I practice semen retention. Or wait until things are a bit more developed. With me and my partner, it was like, when things were getting intimate, we'd been together for a little while, and because it started as kind of a friendship between us, then it matured into a more physical connection. So it was about, I think, 2 to 3 weeks of dating before we started having like intimate physical, sexual experiences together. And that was the time I was like, hey, I practice semen retention. I don't typically ejaculate during sex, but I'm still having orgasms because I do this practice. So, communication is important. Derek Trevino says, thoughts on using something like Bathmate alongside the Angion practices you teach in your course? My experience has been, you don't need anything else other than those methods. I haven't used a Bathmate personally. That's funny. The company actually reached out to me and asked me to like promote them. I'm like, well, I don't need them. I don't need these devices because my practice is solid. So, I'm not going to do that. I don't know. You could try it if you want, but again, the suction, penis pumps, definitely like the dry air vacuum pumps are very, very dangerous. Bathmates, maybe they're a bit more gentle. I don't know. I haven't used them. So I would say be very, very careful. But the Angion methods are fantastic. I've had really, really, really great results with those alone. That's, that's what I recommend personally. Thoughts on monogamy? I mean, I basically touched on this a bit earlier, how I choose to go really deep with one person rather than, kind of scatter myself with several people. For me, it's about quality versus quantity, right? A lot of people are chasing that, like, the first high of being with someone new. It's kind of that honeymoon in love stage, which inevitably ends. And so they're going from person to person to person. And sure, if that's what you want, that's fine. But the downside to this is you never really develop a mature, deep, powerful spiritual connection with someone, which inevitably takes years of trust and intimacy together. That's what I prefer, but it's whatever is right for you. If some people love polyamory, that's great. Some people love monogamy. That's all they want. What's best for you? There's no right or wrong here. Yeah. Flash the Pro TV says, how can she get pregnant if you're not going to bust in it either way? Well, the thing to understand is that it's possible to release semen without realizing it, because when you get close to the point of return, sometimes you have these small involuntary prostate spasms. If you're not well trained, we could say, you may not even realize it, but this will release small amounts of semen. If that gets into her vagina, it can impregnate her, right? So it takes a lot of skill and experience understanding when you've released even small amounts of semen and when you haven't, to have non-ejaculatory sex without risk of pregnancy safely. Having said that, even my partner and I, when she's ovulating, we often wear a condom just to be safe around that period. Randall Frank, what's up, brother? He says, what would you say is the ideal amount of time to spend doing the sexual kung fu exercises? I'd say minimum of 20, 30 minutes a day. Depends what the exercises are, but again, minimum 20, 30 minutes a day, you'll get good results. Less than that, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can do, but I would say at least 20 to 30 minutes is great. Even more than that if you have time. Again, I'm practicing 2 to 3 hours a day with the various exercises, but basically you want, and you also want to split your practice session between standing practices, kind of movement, Qigong, Jianzhuang type practice, Tai Chi, whatever, and then sitting practices. So your meditation practice, your stillness, syncing the mind, working Dantian, all this stuff. So sitting, standing, half and half. Also doing lots of stretching as well to, keep things open up. Holistic Course says, personally, since I'm young, I think brahmacharya could be good for now until I find a higher vibrational female. That's fine, but you do want to develop. The thing is you really want to develop your ejaculation control and your sexual ability so that when you do attract a high vibrational female, you can really match them in the bedroom, right? Drunk Vigo says, what hair gel do you use? I make my own hair product. 2 tablespoons beeswax, 3 tablespoons coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of beeswax, 3 tablespoons coconut oil, 2 teaspoons bentonite clay, melt that down, mix it together, add in some essential oils. Bam, you've got a sweet, non-toxic hair product. I didn't like the garbage they sold in stores, so I made my own. David Gregory says, when you are getting over a painful breakup from a relationship, is it better to start this practice of sexual kung fu after you've healed from this? Because I have found it hard to retain during this. Well, you want to begin your practice, sexual kung fu is not just sexual practices, right? That's the more advanced parts of sexual kung fu. The foundation of sexual kung fu is breathwork, Qigong, clearing old emotions, clearing blockages. It's very important to understand. This is as important for your eventual, sexual energy experience as anything, right? So again, for example, in my 12-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, the first several weeks are doing emotional clearing, clearing old limiting beliefs, clearing old patterns, creating new flows of energy, charging yourself up with Qigong practice. Those are great practices to do after a breakup because you're clearing the old and creating a new container for something new. So yeah, but maybe just take a little break from working directly with sexual energy, like aroused sexual energy in that time, so you don't amplify that kind of heartbreak. Roy Yun Sachs says, yoga asanas versus Qigong, what's the difference? Yoga asanas are very physical. You get a bit of a stretch in the meridians and things like that. But from my experience, I did yoga I've been doing yoga for 10 years, but I was practicing yoga for about 3 years before I began Qigong practice. Because, and I love yoga, but for me, it was like, okay, there's all this talk about chakras, having these like energetic experiences. But then I was doing yoga. I'm like, okay, I'm stretching, I'm breathing, I feel relaxed, I feel calm, I feel, good, but like, I don't feel energy. I don't feel energy tangibly moving through my body. Then I started doing Qigong and I was like, whoa, like I feel the energy in my palms. I feel it, and more recently started to get that charge in my full body very, very tangibly. And I can actually kind of get that in yoga if I'm really relaxed and really engaged in the mind within the body. But as most people are teaching yoga now, it's not inherently a terribly energetic practice. It does have energetic benefits, but primarily it's a physical practice. Qigong, as the name implies, true Qigong is energy work. It's skill, discipline, working with Qi. That is direct energy cultivation. Yoga asanas, typically it's more just stretching, opening things up. Yes, you get some energetic benefits, but mostly it's a physical practice, which is really, really good. It keeps you open, fluid, and flexible. Qigong is directly working with the energy. You feel it tangibly, you move it through the body. So it's a bit different of an experience for me personally. So I do both yoga and Qigong, but I don't mistake one for the other, if that makes sense. Sebastian B says, can I include music while I'm practicing Qigong? What kind of music genres or styles would you recommend? Yeah, you can listen to music. But you don't want to listen to music that like distracts you, pulls your awareness out of you. So I recommend like kind of soft meditative instrumental music. I like to listen to like solfeggio tones. Look up solfeggio on YouTube. There's tons of free music, hours long playlists of solfeggio tones. I like to listen to those when I do Qigong if I'm doing it indoors. If I'm doing it outside, which I usually am during the warmer months, then I'm just in the nature sounds and things like that, right? Flash the Pro TV says, when is ovulation period for a girl? It's going to vary for her. It's usually about 2 weeks after her period ends. There's different apps that women can use to track where they're at in their cycle. It's very important that the woman learns to know where they're at on their cycle because, again, ovulation period is the only point they can get pregnant. But understand that your sperm can also live in the yoni for up to 5 days, maybe even longer if you have really healthy sperm. So yeah, it's going to be individual for each woman. But you can use temperature. Her temperature rises a bit during ovulation, and the consistency of her vaginal secretions are a bit thicker as well. So those are also some signs when she's ovulating. Locke says thoughts on spinning plates. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Could be a lot of things. Randall Frank says, since starting semen retention and sexual kung fu, how often do you feel ill at all? I went 2 to 3 years without getting any sort of sickness, no colds, nothing, until I had COVID last, I think it was December, which put me down for about 2-3 days. It wasn't much, and then I was fine. Lost my taste and smell for 2 weeks, which was the worst part, but overall, it wasn't a big deal. So I very, very rarely get sick. Actually, last week, as I was traveling home, I was starting to get a bit of something. I could tell I was catching something. Like I had, that like kind of lymph irritation feeling in my throat. And so, did my practices, took all my immune boosting supplements, my zinc, my colloidal silver, high levels of vitamin C, vitamin D, plenty of sunlight, oregano oil, and I never got sick. So yeah, it's very, very rare for me to get sick. Winston to Fat says, also my dad said, enjoy your hair while it lasts, which depressed me. Can semen retention prevent balding later in life? There's a lot of factors to balding, but basically for some men, yes, semen retention can prevent or even reverse balding. I have a friend who went to Turkey to get like hair replacement therapy or something done. So that's also an option, I guess. Derek Trevino says, do you have any staples in your diet to help you fuel your practices? Yeah, I have some staples. Some of my favorite foods, like the ones that make me feel the best, are pasture-raised eggs. I've actually been doing some raw goat milk from like a local, grass-fed farm, which has been really amazing as well. Noticed a good difference from that. Black sesame seeds are amazing. I usually eat half a cup to a cup of those per day, loaded with minerals. Maca root, bee pollen, what else do we eat? Avocados, nuts, like Brazil nuts, walnuts. Some high quality, I do a little bit of high quality meats as well, like pasture raised, humanely raised meats. Okay, I'm about to lose my Instagram feed in 30 seconds. I'll start my live over on there. For some reason, it limits me to an hour on Instagram live. How can you advise on discipline? Discipline. Yeah, discipline is a muscle. Discipline is something that you must strengthen. No one can do this for you. So it's you simply have to start doing things. Like you say, I don't want to do this. Let me put it this way. I'm gonna start my Instagram feed over. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys, just pulling up the Instagram feed. I'm looking at still go live on Instagram. I get a lot of my posts removed on there. Sometimes I get banned from going live for a couple weeks. All right, where was I at? Oh, discipline. Discipline's a muscle. You must build it. You must start now, basically, right? Understand that what you practice, you get good at. So what are you practicing? What are you spending your time doing? Is it sitting around on social media, sitting around watching TV, playing video games? You're getting really good at that. So start to build the discipline and getting good at other things, right? So start small. Pick one new habit to add. Maybe it's 10 minutes of Qigong, 10 minutes of meditation, something. And that you start to do that every single day. Start small. Don't like try to change everything. Okay, all of a sudden I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to completely change my diet. I'm going to learn this new instrument. I'm going to practice Qigong. Start with one thing, or else you'll just overwhelm yourself and give up. So let's say your new thing you're going to add is I'm going to do 5 to 10 minutes of meditation every day. Set a time aside that you're going to do that. Say, okay, every day this week at 5 p.m., I'm going to do 10 minutes of Qigong, 10 minutes of meditation, right? You do that every day for a week. You keep doing that, it starts to become a habit. You can add a bit more time. That starts to build that discipline muscle, that willpower muscle. So now you can start doing more and more things, start to change more and more habits, right? This is what happened for me. I started practicing yoga, started to develop that. Actually, my discipline began as a teenager when I was learning guitar. Guitar was a discipline for me. I started practicing guitar for an hour, 2 or 3 hours a day when I was 16 years old. I got pretty good at guitar, so it was a good foundation for other training I was involved in. So yoga, meditation, breathwork, Qigong, these became other disciplines. And in the beginning, it's like you have to force yourself to do it. It's like, okay, I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to do it because I'm building my discipline. And after a while, you start to build that momentum. It becomes natural. Like for me, I tell people I practice 2 to 3 hours a day, Qigong, meditation, all these things. They're like, what? That's very militant. But I started with 10 to 15 minutes. I started doing that every single day. And yes, I was kind of forcing myself to do it in the beginning, but after a while, the benefits were so immense. I started to feel so good from it. I started to enjoy my practice, and I started to add more and more time. Now it's like, I don't force myself to practice for 2 or 3 hours a day. I feel great when I do it. I love doing it. So it's just like, I schedule my day around making sure I'm able to do that. So, little talk on discipline there. Mohammed 7275 says, tell us about the healing benefits of orgasm. Okay, so understand that your body is in a constant state of orgasm. What's keeping your body alive? What is your body made of? It's made of cells. What are those cells doing? They're constantly reproducing 24/7. Cellular sex. 24/7, your body's made of sex. Your body's made of orgasm, right? And so that when we engage in orgasm in a balanced way, which for men is to have orgasm without ejaculating, at least without ejaculating frequently, we start to get into resonance of that reproduction, that reproducing ourselves. Orgasm has a dramatic shift on your mind, your body. It's this experience of oneness. It's experience of being completely in the moment. Again, everything that's created passes through the portal of an orgasm, as you did from your parents. So the more that you experience balanced sex, the more that this starts to create this resonance with your cells, your DNA. I've seen scientific studies that orgasm improves the quality of your DNA, the quality of your cellular reproduction. And then on a more esoteric level, energetically, having orgasms it feels good. It's blissful. It opens you up. It opens your energy body. Specifically when you're doing it in a sexual kung fu way, you're opening all the energy channels. You're circulating the sexual energy throughout your body. It raises the vibration of everything. It makes you feel amazing, open, blissful. It can be very, very healing. It can help you let go of traumas, let go of blockages, let go of fear, stress, all these weird things, and it amplifies your energy, you know. It's very healing. Sebastian B says, I noticed that the one who retains has this youthful look with good blood circulation, while the one who doesn't and is draining himself looks dull and pale. Is this related to OHA's and gene? Yes, because basically when you're over discharging your sexual battery, you're ejaculating too frequently, more than you can replenish. What happens is the body it takes so many resources for the body to create sperm that if you're not replenishing that in other ways, which most men aren't when they're ejaculating every day, the body has to pull resources from the organs, to pull minerals from the organs, from the bones, the bone marrow, the brain fluid, all these things just to keep creating semen. So the rest of your body dries up. So that's why you look pale and sickly, is because you're depleted. Flash the Pro TV says, have you ever smashed raw, and what was your thoughts if you compared it to a condom as in feeling wise? Yeah, I mean, my partner and I have sex without a condom pretty much almost exclusively, except when she's ovulating, we may be a bit concerned. It feels much better without a condom. It's much more sensitivity. It's that direct skin contact. It's much more intense. Enrique Palacios Fitness says, can I do sexual transmutation while working out? I did this today and feel my body vibrating. Yes, I do this. I'll be at the gym, you know, taking a little rest in between my sets. I'll do some testicle breathing. I'll bring the sexual energy to the muscles I'm working or whatever, and I get a little boost from that. So yeah, you can definitely incorporate this into fitness, whatever, anything you're doing, you can incorporate sexual energy into. How sexual kung fu strengthens our sexual energy, says Mohammed. Or how sexual kung fu strengthens our energy body. A large foundation of sexual kung fu is building and strengthening the energy body. So working with the microcosmic orbit, working with Qigong, this is starting to develop a relationship with your energy body, which is beyond the physical, starts to strengthen it and make it much more, we could say, tangible, and strengthens the integrity of it. So this is how sexual kung fu does, is by doing energetic practice to build the chi, to consolidate the chi, and to create certain boundaries and energy fields, energy matrices in your body, which makes you very energetically more powerful, we could say. And sexual energy, again, has that amplifying bonding effect. So it just creates that a certain layer of juiciness to your overall energy as well, and more magnetism. Alexandra KTV says, can semen retention cause mental issues like intrusive thoughts, anxiety, etc.? I definitely recommend watching the last YouTube video I posted, which is called The Dark Side of Semen Retention. Basically, semen retention in itself, just doing semen retention can be dangerous for some men. You know, I only recommend doing semen retention if you're doing underlying practices to balance that energy that you're building. Because think of it this way: if you have a system in place, different programs running, right, like a computer system, and then you amplify the power going into that system, all the programs running will be strengthened. So not all those programs in people's minds and bodies are good. If you have all these underlying unconscious patterns, mental, you know, imbalances, issues, then throwing sexual energy on that fire is only going to strengthen those imbalances. This is the dark side of semen retention. So that's why I only recommend doing it with some basic training in energy management, being able to clear negative emotions, being able to clear traumas, clear blockages. If you do semen retention and you're an angry, irritable, unbalanced person, you're just going to become more of that person. Semen retention makes you more of who you already are, right? And if you're not working to balance yourself, then you can create a monster. It's only one part of holistic lifestyle, which is also energy management, Qigong, meditation, diet, lifestyle, you know, self-development. Randall Frank, what are your thoughts on the I don't know if I'm gonna say too much about this. Things are getting so censored right now, but basically we'll say the power shift to the planet. I'll say it's difficult to know exactly what's going on. There's, I will say don't get caught in polarities, excessive polarities. Understand that obviously, yes, we've been under control of very, very, very dark influences for maybe thousands of years. And it's possible that, is trying to really desperately spread fear and things like that. Oh, and I'm losing my YouTube connection. There we go. I don't know. I don't recommend focusing too much on this. There's nothing you can really do about it. All you can do is cultivate your energy. What do you want to create in the world around you? Focus on that. Focus on your passion. Don't worry too much about politics, conspiracy stuff, which, a lot of it's no longer theories, right? We're seeing it in broad daylight. But again, there's nothing you can do about it. Don't become a foot soldier in someone else's war. When you get stuck in these strong polarities and you're, fighting something, then you're always going to have an enemy out to kill you, right? So try to stay a bit neutral. Don't worry too much about these huge spiritual wars going on. Just cultivate your energy, live in balance, live in harmony, treat others with kindness, and create the world you want to live in by your daily actions. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up, but I'm just going to answer a couple more questions here. I think this is relevant. Why retain semen if you're going to lose it when you get old? What happens to semen retention when one reaches a very advanced age? The thing is that regulating your ejaculating less frequently, it will cause you to age a lot more gracefully. That's the thing, is most men understand is that they think the reason it's not apparent in our teenage years that ejaculation drains us is because it's a slow depletion of energy over time. It's like having a bank account, and every time you have an ejaculation, you're spending from that. If you're not supplementing that bank account, if you're not reinvesting, eventually you're going to go bankrupt. It's the same thing with our energy, but it takes a while for that to happen. So we don't realize until it's too late often, where you're 45 years old, you have erectile dysfunction, you have a bad back, and your knees hurt, right? Your hair is falling out, your joints ache, it's too late at that point, right? So what you can do, there's still things you can do, but basically semen retention is reinvesting in your bank account, at least regulating your ejaculation. You will, instead of depleting over time, you hold that energy, you keep your bank account a high amount in there, so you always have some to spend. So you will age much more graceful. It's an investment in your life. Winston Fat, lost motivation, feel tired all the time. Well, it's time to kind of redefine yourself. Maybe go on a vision quest, get out of your normal daily routine, travel. I know it can be difficult for some people to travel right now. Rent a cabin, get out in the woods for a week, have a really deep kind of self-transformation, experience the death of your old self, intend for yourself, your personality to die and to birth something new, to recreate yourself, right? And life will often initiate us into this, whether we want it or not at some point. But if you do it yourself, it makes it a lot easier. So I don't know. This is why I practice internal alchemy, Taoist internal alchemies. It's a constant rebirthing of myself, a constant transmutation, transforming of myself, my patterns, releasing what no longer serves me and bringing in what does, But again, whenever you feel stuck in your life, it's time to shift things up, shift up your patterns, shift up your routine, stop doing the same things every day. Do something very, very different. For me, it's always traveling. I love traveling because it shifts up my routine and it makes me realize what's truly important in my life. And I have a lot of realizations about myself, what I truly want in my life. I hope that helps. Girlfriend is not on your side to learn sexual kung fu. Well, this really gets into that transformation thing, because when you're transforming yourself and your partner doesn't want to transform with you, you're going to grow apart. This is the thing about relationships, is you really want to be with someone that you can transform with. If you want to transform, if you want to stay the same person you are, doing the same things for the rest of your life, that's fine. If you want someone else who's doing that, that's great. But if you want to be more of the evolutionary type, you're constantly changing and transforming, then it's really important that you have a partner who supports that and who is also doing their inner work, transforming, developing themselves as well. So you grow together rather than growing apart, right? I know it's not easy, but it is what it is. CJ says, I feel better during retention, but what about the studies or evidence saying there's no harm from frequently ejaculating? These studies are pretty inconclusive. what do you feel? Do you feel better when you frequently ejaculate? Go by experience. Understand that these scientific studies are easy to manipulate. Where's the funding coming from? What's the agenda behind it? It's really, really easy to pay to get a scientific study that will support your desired outcome. I mean, look what's happening in the world right now, right? I'll say no more about that. But yeah, do you feel better from doing retention? I do. I feel really shitty if I ejaculate every day. So it's very obvious, Western science is quite behind on this. Western medical, which is highly, highly manipulated as well. It's a control system. Okay, guys, this is gonna be my last question I'm gonna answer. It seems relevant as well. How do you advise on having sensitivity under the penis? Best technique to fight it, mad skills. So this is a penis right here. This is the frenulum. This is the ejaculation control tree. The nerves here connect to the prostate area and the pelvic floor. And often when it's being stimulated, it contracts those muscles in the pelvic floor. This causes premature ejaculation because that contraction activates your sympathetic nervous system, activates the tension in the prostate to release spasm and ejaculate. This is often very, very sensitive, like extra sensitive when you have a lot of tension built up in the pelvic floor, when you have high levels of stress, you have a lot of like stagnance, maybe some scar tissue, things in your pelvic floor because you don't move enough, you sit down too much, you're not flexible. So stretching, doing reverse Kegels, releasing tension from your mind and your body, is very, very important. We live in such a stressed out world. So Qigong, breathwork, yoga, meditation, these things are very, very important for balancing the nervous system and being able to be less sensitive there, overcome premature ejaculations. Doing reverse Kegels is very important as well. So learn to stimulate your penis while staying relaxed in your pelvic floor so that you'll notice when your penis is being stimulated, you start to tense up and squeeze the pelvic floor. This causes quick ejaculation. So learn to relax by breathing deeply, by using reverse Kegels, outward pushing of the pelvic floor, and that will help you overcome this problem. All right, guys, it's been great. I'm going to jump off. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Hope you guys are having a good week and have a good weekend. I will be back here at the same time to hang out with you guys again. So take care, cultivate your chi, spend time in nature, take your vitamins, all that stuff, guys. I'll see you later.